What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Martian and Ozzy podcast. This week, we are back to preview the Lewis versus Spivak card going down from the UFC Apex this weekend. And I'm joined by my co-host, as always, Ozzy. How we doing this week, my man?
Epic pay-per-view coming off of MSG. A little bit of a downer this week, but yeah, it's getting cold out here. We're getting a holiday season. World Cup's right around the corner. So, unfortunately, the event ended bad. Izzy and Chandler going down. It was a great night of fights overall, and all my casual friends that I was with, they definitely enjoyed that fight card.
Yeah, it was definitely entertaining. Not start to finish, really. Hooker beat that ass early. The knockout of Frankie Edgar. The What happened next? The Chandler Poirier war. Zhang pretty much dominating, and then the main event ending in dramatic fashion. So it was definitely a pay-per-view card. Definitely a very sore note ending on Izzy. Especially for me in the tracked profit section of things. Ended up plus 1.84 units, but I had 3 units on Izzy. If he would have won, I would have been up over 6 units, I think. And instead, we finished just under two. So that very sour taste in my mouth. But still a good card overall. What about you? How'd you do last week?
Fortunately, you had four sides overall. I feel like two good bets, two bad bets, the two good. Chandler. Don't regret the bet at all. I think I, kind of capped the fight pretty well. Chandler won most of that fight, and I was super concerned though when I was watching it live. In the last whatever it is, maybe like minute and a half, minute 15, when he does get the takedown or go to the takedown, and I was just thinking, like, man, like he's gonna not be able to hold him down maybe for the rest of the round. And if Dustin gets back up, like Dustin's gonna just come at him, really really hard. And I just wish Chandler would have maybe like let off the gas a little bit there, with around 40, 45 seconds left, and not engage too much in that brawl because I think he gave opportunity for Dustin to land that right hook. But even then, came out in the second round, went to the game plan, took him down, pounded him pretty good. And even in that third round, when I tell you that takedown that he hits, the high crotch to the lift, and the maneuver that he goes afterwards, where he kind of, swims his arms out of the way and he kind of goes to the back, is 100% the right, move to go for. But unfortunately, Dustin anticipated that hook coming in, and he slipped off. Maybe he could have instead of that, fallen back for the back, could have just went to that referee's position, behind him, and gotten us the win there. But don't regret that at all. And then Caroline, obviously, great. I think great bet there. And then the two bad bets, Arce and Turman. Even though that Turman fight was just weird, I thought that he some of the rounds are close, like maybe that first round, and then the second round he just brain farted and wasn't active enough when he got the good grappling positions on Petrovsky. So yeah, 1-3 overall on those sides, and and on a better day, we cash that Chandler play, and it's kind of maybe like a flat day, or maybe even a little bit of a profit. But them's them breaks right now, unfortunately. Even Arce as well. Arce fights like one or two rounds kind of close to Montel, and then isn't really able to get going, and then that third round, he gets dropped. But yeah, was not a great event overall due to that.
Yeah, but like you said, Chandler was, I believe, a very good bet. Chandler decision for me, plus 750. I think we read the fight perfectly. The line was acting like Chandler wasn't going to wrestle at all. He wrestled, and when he did wrestle, he had, massive success. People talking about him gassing out, him slowing down, him being inefficient with his energy. Sure, that's true, but this fucking guy still easily won the second round after a barn burner of a first round, after being hurt, nearly knocked out, after being gassed out. He still got one takedown and just completely dominated the round from top position. So I still feel that line was super wrong.
And even if you think like, I guess it looks like he kind of shattered his nose. Just a lot of bad factors there, breaking his nose or getting hurt there, and he finished that third round. Like he literally could have fought way smarter. Like maybe just hold the clinch, man, or like did so well in those first like 4 minutes. Like maybe ease it up. Like I tell guys that I train with a lot of times too, and people that are I'm like the fight is 15 minutes. You don't need to win every second of the fight, to win the fight. But credit to Dustin Poirier, guy's a dog. And great fight there. And I'm glad that they put together a an awesome fight between the two. And it was kind of to be expected. But love Chandler. Hope he gets back on the winning side of things. In his next fight. And but man, that was a bad beat there. I feel or just an unfortunate loss. Like I was like no when because he has this guy hoisted up in the middle of the octagon, MSG. And then literally right after that, he's like, it's on. And I
Tapping.
had a little bit of hope because you know how good the guy is from getting out of that back position. But I think with the broken nose and the blood and stuff, like he's just so tired that he couldn't muster up an escape from there. So yeah, that was unfortunate.
Yeah, Poirier basically came back from like two miraculous comebacks within the same fight. The first round, he was losing, getting wrestled, getting outboxed, and then he comes back and nearly knocks him out. And then he loses round two, comes out and gets the rear naked choke in round three. So yeah, Poirier is incredible.
Poirier with finishes over Michael Chandler, Eddie Alvarez, and Justin Gaethje, and Conor McGregor. Incredible resume.
Yeah, yeah, he's the man. Okay, so getting into this card, seriously, one of the worst cards ever. I really don't have many thoughts or conviction in any of these fights, so we'll get you guys out of here in 45 minutes. This podcast is still going on 40 minutes from now, just shut it the fuck off, okay? Natalia Silva, Bleda is the first fight. Silva minus 155, Bleda plus 135. Silva didn't fight in a long time. Then she fought Jasmine, and she looked massively better. From plus 200 to now minus 155. I think it could be a slight overreaction, just because she stuffed a few takedowns there. I'm not sold that she's some incredible defensive wrestler. And Bleda does seem to go for takedowns, and she does seem to lay on top and know what to do there. So it seems like a pretty striker versus grappler esque matchup. I probably think the value's on the dog here, but no interest in this fight at all. What about you, Ozzy?
Seems like there's like a baseline of support for Natalia Silva. I think that, the last performance is obviously pretty good. She looked, athletic, strong, well schooled in, numerous positions. Ada, her contender series fight did not look great in terms of like some of the grappling and just some of the positions that she was going through. But, if you look at some of her older fights, I think that her ground game actually looked a bit better. Um, so and she's a huge flyweight. She's only 20 years old as well. Gonna have a big reach advantage here. So I think it's a competitive fight. I think the line movement is correct in kind of shortening it up a little bit. But I'm just not sure how Bleda like is Bleda gonna push to really grapple and clinch, a lot, which I actually think Natalia Silva could it could favor her a little bit. Just because I think she's good at counter grappling. So I think like quicker takedowns and stuff like that from Bleda, and maybe setting it up with the hands is going to be better path for her than grinding. So I would lean towards her, but I don't really have a lot of conviction, on the fight overall. I want to kind of just watch it for because I think both these girls could pick up wins over fellow 125ers later on. So we'll just watch and start off the night gathering some intel on both these girls.
Sounds good. That's going to move us to the bantamweight division. Fernie Garcia, Brady-Heistand. This line is Brady minus 174, Garcia plus 144. Brady getting most of the action this week. It's been kind of rough going for Brady's lately of the world, but what are you thinking about this? The young Heistand coming off of about a year and a half playoff.
This is one Brady or another of the Bradys that knows jujitsu. So I think Tom Brady should take a page out of Brady Heistand and Sean Brady's book and maybe learn some jujitsu. Maybe get his girl back. But Brady, good, decent pedigree in jiu-jitsu. I think he was like a kids or teens, like Pan Am's, like guy. Craig Jones really spoke highly, on the podcast or an appearance after the Ultimate Fighter about how impressed he was with Brady's I think he's a brown belt overall, but I think very, very good in no gi. Kind of attacks the back, looks for good positions, is pretty tough as well. His striking defense is not great, so I feel Fernie potentially, if he is a bit more aggressive, can land some strikes here. But the thing with Fernie is, I think he is going to be tentative because he knows the takedowns and the grappling of Brady is on a higher level than his for sure. And he does give up his back a lot when he is getting taken down, or after he is on the ground. So I think Brady's going to be able to get in on the hips a few times, and it's going to be a matter of if he can work to the finish here. And then if it is on the feet, I think later on maybe Fernie can land some strikes. But early, I think he's gonna have a difficult time, and I do lean Brady on the money line. Now that it's moved about 20 cents from kind of like the price that it was like hanging around that, the minus 160, 155 number. I think maybe some of the values getting sucked out of it. Um, but I would definitely lean him for a pick. I just think that Fernie, his reaction times are not the best, and his striking is actually like he doesn't have as much punching power as maybe he thinks, or is touted as having. So Brady for me.
Yeah, that last point there is a big thing here because if you look at Garcia's career, first few fights he's fighting bums, he finishes them. Then he goes on a right? He's fighting in LFA. He's fighting, somewhat good competition, but he's going to the decision all those times. And then he lands a great punch behind the ear of Weems from the Contender Series, knocks him out. And now the market kind of thinks he's, a knockout puncher, and that's why he was massively overvalued against Newson. And I think they're probably still overvaluing him here because I don't think he's that big of a puncher. I don't think he's great at striking. I think he's probably a below average grappler. And the most consistent offensive tool of any of these guys is Brady-Heistand's offensive grappling. And he's liable to shoot a ton of takedowns. You saw in the Turcios fight, went real hard for 15 minutes there. It did slow down pretty badly in round three. But I mean, that was a crazy pace fight. And, Brady's just reliable to shoot 10, 15 takedowns. And I think that should be good enough to win him this fight here and get his first UFC win. That'll move us along to the women's strawweight division. Maria Oliveira taking on Vanessa Demopoulos. Pick'em line at minus 110. I do have a bet on this plus 105. I bet it a few weeks ago, and I don't think there's any massive edge here, but I think that Demopoulos is the much more has the much more potential to finish uh the fight, and that's indicated by the no scorecards line. Demopoulos is, nearly minus 300. And I think that Demopoulos is the much better grappler of the two and probably can compete on the feet as well. I just think the Oliveira is like, man, she throws all these strikes out. I just don't think there's any power or like substance or thought behind the strikes. She just spams these crazy combinations, and it's sad that women's MMA is so bad that that can actually win a lot of fights, and she somehow, was able to get a gift of a decision versus DePaula, just spamming those strikes. But I think Demopoulos will hang tight on the feet, and if the fight gets on the floor, I think she should have a big edge and could, finish the fight from on top or on bottom here. So I like Stripolopoulos to get the win at plus money. I mean, no value here though; it's not worth it at this point. What about you?
Not very sure about this fight. It's not a fight. It's not the style of fight that I enjoy betting too much, just because obviously both like Maria Oliveira doesn't have a lot of punching power. She's gonna be looking to win by decision. If she The thing is though, I don't like Demopolis's wrestling, and I don't know how reliable she's going to be to consistently try to take down Maria Oliveira. And Maria Oliveira even took down GDP, which is obviously not a big accolade, right? It's easy to do, but the point being that if she could go for takedowns, I would think that she could defend some weak takedowns that Demopoulos looks to throw out there. Remember, Demopoulos picked up a win via getting knocked down and then, getting a submission, an armbar there. And I mean, it's just not, especially at like slight juice. Like, I think you bet her at, plus money. Just Vanessa is not a girl that I like, to bet. Maria Oliveira is easier to pull the trigger than Gu Frey. Like this girl throws out tons and tons of strikes, and also probably has better cardio, or has pretty good cardio as well, as she showed in the GDP fight where I think she won the third round. I don't really remember, or I don't really know how they scored it, but yeah. So
You didn't rewatch the fight this week, bro? Come on.
dude, I mean, that fight
I'm
was
just
super frustrating
I'm just
because
kidding.
I remember I was like, GDP, how are you losing to this girl? What are you doing? Um, it was just ridiculous. I was like, "What are you doing? Like, how are you letting this girl take you down out of all people?" So I don't like Vanessa Demopoulos, like the archetype of her as a fighter. Even she's tough. So I think she's gonna need a grapple here. So maybe she will, but this is a bathroom break fight.
Yep, as
Good
if
luck
this
to you
whole
though.
card. Yes. Um, Bantamweight, men's, Ricky Turcios, Kevin Natividad. The line for this one, Turcios -155, Natividad +135. So Ricky burned us pretty bad last time, Ozzy.
Oh Lord.
Are you maybe rebound with some faith here, or
Oh my
has
God.
he been on like your no bet list or some shit?
Man, I mean, in this fight, I mean, the thing is, like Kevin, like Ricky is still tough, and he still, I think, has some volume, but he just so dumb. Like I should have known when the fucking guy is like he finishes every sentence with you know what I'm saying. Like you gotta like just not invest in a guy like that. But the fact that the guy it was 1-1, even at worst, like I guess it was 1-1, whatever. The fight was not going his way. How in the third round do you not just be like, all right, fuck it. Like I'm gonna at least win this round and make it like put it on the judges to like take the fight from me. Like give this guy other guy the fucking fight because he wasn't doing anything himself as a hobby. You just throwing inside leg kicks. He just let the fight slip through his fingers. Was incredibly frustrating. So I can't back him again. But I do think against Kevin the TV because Kevin is more of a power puncher. Like he doesn't really set up the strikes all too much. He's really cocking that right hand back, quite often. Doesn't really throw too many kicks, either. I don't like him as a fighter. He grappling wise, I don't think he's in the grapple either. But I don't think Ricky is, either. So it's gonna be a pass fight for me. I think I'm so if the line comes in enough on Ricky, maybe I'll consider it. But 60% in a scrap between two guys from Texas, like two Mexican kids here. I don't really want to get involved, all that much. This is like a Fury FC fucking, bantamweight title fight here. So I don't really want to lay juice on Ricky. I hope he wins. I'm rooting for the guy. But it was just so frustrating that last fight. I mean, if you look at the accuracy between these two guys, like the amount of punches Kevin Natividad missed against Miles Johns was ridiculous. And likewise to Ricky. So I hope that these guys, do scrap for sure, and it is an entertaining fight. But I think I have to lay off of it. But overall, I just think that Natividad, like he does not have the style for the 135 division to consistently win fights. So I hope Ricky brings the volume, brings the pace, and collects his first UFC win.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning Natividad here. I think he's a better fighter than what he showed in his first few fights, and I just think considering that he's been knocked out twice in a row, I generally think the market is probably just a little low on him. Uh, And I think he's, being respected in this fight, being at only a +135, but still just historically, coming off of two knockouts. I feel like this guy, he's really not that bad of a fighter. He has a process of pressuring and boxing, and I think he's a decent wrestler when he chooses to use it. So I think if he just, pressures in the small cage, comes forward, throwing punches like he does, like he did in the LFA, and maybe mixes in a takedown, I think he could probably make this fight really close. And it just doesn't seem wise to be laying juice on Ricky at this point in his career. Too wild and chaotic to be doing it, and we learned our lesson the hard way last time. So, um, I kind of lean Natividad in this fight, though. Honestly, I think Tercios's boxing defense is pretty bad, and Natividad has the heavier hands of the two. I think we'll see Natividad actually hurt Tercios with a punch at this point in this fight. I don't know if he'll finish it, but look out for that. That's going to be
That
next
is
fight.
it is a fight between two 93 kids, though. I just want to mention that. So Ricky is a Gemini though, so he has the advantage.
There we go. There's the narrative nation from it. Ozzy jumping in with some incredible volume and some of these transitions here. But more in the bantamweight division, we have Miles Johns taking on Vince Morales, and this fight is being lined at Miles Johns -170, Vince Morales +145. So should be a striking fight. Johns can mix in the wrestling. It just seems like he doesn't. There's his past 5 or 6 fights, he really hasn't do. So he seems to be pretty much a striker at this point, and he did look a little bit better with the jab and the leg kick in some of his fights. Did run into a brick wall against Castaneda, but
Got
much tougher.
smoked.
Yeah, much tougher matchup. And Morales is just a very one-dimensional, striker. This guy, he doesn't really grapple much at all. He's not a strong defensive grappler, and he has a huge exploit, and that is leg kicks. I mean, it just seems like anytime you kick this guy's legs, he self-destructs. He doesn't know how to check them. He doesn't seem to improve them. I mean, how many fucking times is this guy gonna lose a fight due to leg kicks and just not change anything and get right back out there and just lose again? So I mean, I think he's if Miles Johns throws leg kicks, he's probably gonna win. So, I think that the line is probably pretty accurate here. So, although I think there is a note though, Johns is coming in on what, 2 to 3 weeks short notice, so that's something to consider here. Whenever a fighter is coming in on short notice, and they're the favorite, you should be a little weary of. So, any thoughts here?
Yeah, I in this fight, I prefer the dog. I prefer Vince Morales here. Faden Maljan's very, very large or pretty big against Castaneda, and Castaneda came through, and he was just a tricky guy, and kind of just mixed up the attack, well. The thing with Miles Johns is like a lot of the takedowns for him are a bit telegraphed. Vince Morales does have some wrestling background, so I think it's not going to be easy for Miles Johns to get takedowns, and it definitely is not going to be easy for him to solidify and consolidate those takedowns on the ground. And then, yeah, obviously the leg kicks are an issue, a big issue for him, but he did get carved up by the two best leg kickers at 135, right? Let's not forget that, right? Between Chris Gutierrez and Jonathan Martinez, who can kick with both legs, can kick you in the head as well, into the body. Whereas Miles Johns, if he is kicking, it's going to kind of be exclusively, calf kicks. So I think it kind of takes away.
It's a good point. Good point.
You know what I mean? It just like you don't have you're not worrying about that leg coming up to the body or the head, as much. But when Chris Gutierrez and Martinez are kicking you, like spin kicks, it's everything. So I think that Morales has a better jab. He's got some punching power as well. I liked what he did against Smolka, kind of coming out really strong, in that first round, and ended up hurting him, there. So I think if Miles could get off to a fast start, which I think it for Miles, he does have some cardio issues as well, which you kind of mentioned his him coming in on short notice here. So I like the dog here. It's not a big play, big lean. But I think this is gonna be a close fight. I don't think Miles Johns he is 6-0 in decisions, but he doesn't really blow too many people away if he does not have like a big grappling advantage. Even the Kevin Natividad fight, like, I'm not he was winning the fight, but it was a little back and forth. I thought like he split decision to Cole Smith, like so. I think this is gonna be a close fight, and I'd like to have a dog ticket, here. So I think that'll be one of the money line plays that I'll have this week, and the price is getting slightly better, so yeah, I definitely like the Morales side for sure.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. I think that all makes sense. So, low conviction fight there for me.
Yeah, and I think Mount John's KO is pretty. I think the price is kind of egregious. Under like 20. They got it 225.
Yeah.
I don't really see that, but we'll see. Took him like like look how long it took him to finish Dos Santos and Natividad. Like
Yeah,
Morales is pretty
DeSantis, it
tough,
was
dude.
on, like, one leg.
Yeah, Morales is
Yeah,
very tough.
he's hard to finish, yeah. Um, okay, next fight is, women's flyweight. Damn, a lot of women's fights. Jennifer Maia, Marina-Moroz, the line here, Moroz -192, Maia +167. One of Ozzy's favorite female fighters. Jennifer in action, you
Yeah.
ready for this one?
Yeah, this is actually a good fight, I think. Like, I mean, for the women's division, both these girls are as well rounded as you can be. I mean, not as well rounded as you can be, you know what I mean? But they take the fight multiple ways. Jennifer Maya has some. She fought for the belt, right? That was a title fight, right, against Valentina.
Yeah, that did happen, yeah.
Yeah, former title challenger, and I think this line is a little disrespectful to her. I mean, Marina Moroz, coming off a fight where she was a dog to Agapova. She had Ukraine on her back. A month and a half after the invasion, right? Big pay per view. Fighting a girl that she had apparently tooled in practice, and Agapova's got no gas. Like. It was clear that Moroz knew she had a huge advantage on the ground, but Agapova was absolutely clueless in the clinch. And once it went to the ground, like there's nothing that she could offer. But Maya, man, she's a glove sniffer on the feet, obviously, but not the easiest girl to take down. legitimate jiu-jitsu game off her back and on the ground overall, right? I think she almost armbarred. I forget. I or she who did she armbar? She armbarred who was it?
Jojo Calderwood,
Dojo,
right?
she armbarred her, and she survived off of her back against Valentina. She offered a decent fight there, and I just think that takedown wise, I think it's gonna be much harder for Moroz to get Jennifer Maia down. Maya's very experienced over 3 round fights. She's not gonna gas like Agapova did, and I just see this being a pretty close fight overall. I think Maya, on a two fight losing skid against two girls that are very hard to win a decision against in Furo and excuse me, and Chukagian. Moroz, she did slow down against Bueno Silva, and just I don't know the game plan that she's gonna necessarily come out here with. I don't think she's a crazy submission artist like she showed, against Agapova. So I actually think this is a pretty good fight for Maya, and I'm actually very surprised that the line is going so heavily in the favor of Moroz. Um, just off of like the last fight. It's just like that last fight means literally nothing to me in this fight because it's just a girl like Maya is just so much more experienced than a girl like Agapova. And I think she's motivated. She gets paid all right, and I think it's gonna be a close fight. So Maya by decision over 2-1. I think that's pretty solid. So even the money line though, I think is quite good. So yeah, I think I'll take a little stab on Jennifer Maya plus 160. I think pretty good value. Value bet for a girl against a girl like Moroz, who hasn't fought many good girls at 125.
Yeah, now that last part is true. Hasn't fought a whole lot of top talent at 125, but I don't know. I don't think there's any reason to bet Maya here. To me, I don't think she's really good at winning fights. She doesn't have a lot of aggression. She doesn't have, a lot of consistency behind anything she does. Sometimes she mixes in a takedown, sometimes she boxes. It's just like she doesn't have like an A game. While with Mirage, we know he's going to be trying to achieve here. She's probably going to be looking to get the fight in the clinch and get the fight to the floor where she's super strong in the clinch. Just, the difference in, muscle between these two women is crazy. And Miraz is going to be able to get the fight to the cage and probably get Maya down. And, I just think Maya can be taken down rather easily. And I mean, she can survive on her back, like Ozzy was saying. I just don't think she can get up after long periods of time. I don't think her scrambling ability is really good. She just doesn't really move too fast in those wrestling exchanges. And you could really argue that in Maya's past, 6 fights, she really hasn't looked good in any of them. And even like the Jessica I fight, razor close fight. I mean, I thought she lost that fight. The Wood fight, she gets taken down and then gets an armbar off her back. I mean, I just don't think that Maya. I haven't seen anything from her in the past few years that really actually impressed me. The last like good win she had was beating the brakes off of Roxanne back in 2019. So I just think Maraz is actually the one who's kind of making bigger improvements in her career, and this line kind of makes sense to me. And then also looking, it says Moroz landed 111 strikes at distance versus Mario Bueno Silva. Um, I don't remember that. I thought I remember her grappling in the early rounds of that fight, but the fact that that's a stat is significant. I mean, Bueno Silva is a dangerous woman, and if Miraz can land over 100 strikes at distance versus her, it's
None of
probably
those strikes had any power on them, though. I'll tell you.
yeah. But I don't even remember that happen. I don't know. I remember that fight being a
I
fun
mean,
one. I
towards the
remember
end, she was
getting her ass
grinding.
beat.
Yeah.
Yeah, she got thrashed in the third round there. But um, yeah, I think that's another thing though. Miraz is a fast starter, so if Maya is working her way into this fight, I think you might be able to get a better live bet. Um, like you said, like her decision lines plus 2 something. One takedown from Miraz and Maya could be plus 3 something on the money line live. Okay. Next fight is flyweight division. Probably the best matchup on the card, highest level fight on the card. Zalgaz Zhumagulov taking on Charles Johnson. Two, good fun fighters here. Charles Johnson minus 160, Zalgaz Zhumagulov plus 140. So both these guys, had a rough going in their last fight. Zumagulov getting robbed against Jeff Molina, one of the consensus worst decisions of the year, and Charles Johnson just running into a brick wall in Mokaev in his UFC debut. Despite both guys technically losing the fight, he's still, good performances from both guys, and I've got, good expectations going forward. I mean, I honestly hope Zalgas can win the fight because I think he's a good fighter who has, kind of run into some really tough matchmaking in the UFC. And I think if he loses and gets cut, that would be kind of a shame because he deserves to be around in this division. Um, but I mean, I think Charles should have the striking advantage here. I think he's a little bit more of the more dangerous boxer. He can control the distance of the moving backwards and not allowing the pocket for Zhumagulov because Zhumagulov's shorter guy, shorter arms. Charles is pretty big and long for the weight class, and I just think he's going to be able to dictate the range here. And Zalgas is probably going to be looking to clinch and wrestle as a result to negate that range. And I could see Zalgas, getting the body lock and maybe getting some takedowns on Johnson like Mokaev did, but as we saw in that fight, Johnson extremely, extremely hard to actually control on the mat. You can get that body lock, you can put him against the cage, but you're not going to get any meaningful positions. And we just saw that game plan kind of fail Zalgas in the last fight against Molina, where he had a lot of control time and clinch time, but the rounds just didn't go his way. Oh my gosh, that scared me. What the hell was that, Ozzy? Um, um,
That just moved like a wire, dude.
it twitched out in my ears. It's gonna scare everybody when they're driving their cars. Alright, alright, alright. Okay, so, I think Johnson will win the fight, but it's not a fight I like to bet. I think it's super, super likely to go the distance, and the line reflects that -200. I mean, I don't see a finish here.
Yeah, I like Charles here. I think the biggest thing is that Zalgas, like, obviously he fights in the southpaw stance. So I think it's just gonna be a little bit easier for Charles to land, his strikes. But saying that at the same time, like Charles, I hope he's just not tentative after having Mokaev glued to him so tightly in his last fight. And I mean, Zalgas is a tough out, like the easy guy to beat. Has fought, 5 rounds multiple times as well, but he's on the downtrend, on the downslope of his career. The fight against Molina, 100% a robbery. I had a ticket on, him and him by decision, of total robbery. But realistically, he didn't do a lot in that fight. And if he's having a hard time holding down, Jeff Molina and kind of like staying connected, I mean, he stayed connected to him, but he couldn't, establish ground positions. Like, I don't think that that's going to be a route for him to beat Charles. And Charles has shown that he's got great cardio as well. He just needs to start faster. Like he needs to like have more urgency and kind of use the energy that he has, earlier in the fight. So I think he needs to get off to a good start. I think Zalgas also is going to want to get off to a good start given how his last fight finished, but I do like Charles, even though even with him as the favorite. But I think this is gonna be a good scrap. This could be fight of the night potentially, maybe if Zolgas is aggressive. But I think Charles is going to be able to land more wherever the fight takes place and step on the gas a bit more, maybe in the pivotal third round. So I definitely lean to him, even with him being the favorite.
Yep, that sounds pretty accurate to me. That's gonna bring us to the first fight on the main card. But real quick is these guys, most people that wouldn't know it, but they would make an infinitely better main event than Derek Lewis versus Spivak would. Both these guys got 5 round experience, and it would be like I mean, this is like an LFA-esque card, and, Johnson and Zumagulov headliner would be very LFA-esque, so damn shame, but, moving on to the main card, Jack Della Maddalena taking on Danny Roberts, huge favor for Jack Della, -550, and the action just keeps pouring in on him. Everyone's betting him and parlaying him this week. Any faith at all in the dog here, Roberts, or is just, gonna be a Jack Della, steamroll?
Not much, for this fight here. Danny Roberts somehow, some way, I bet on him against Trinaldo, and in the parts where he was not completely rocked, I thought that he fought okay, but when he did get hit, it kind of didn't look good. Like it looked like he didn't know where the hell he was at with like not the hardest strikes at all. Was getting hurt to the body as well. He's always been the Bambi leg, kind of like wiry dude, and I think he's getting set up here to get slept. Just a matter of kinda like how aggressive is he? I mean, they've got him priced by submission like crazy high, almost 30 to 1, which, maybe you could take a little stab on that. I don't think that he's going to look to grapple Maddalena, and I don't think there'd be success there. So that's why I don't really give him that much of a chance here. Like, look at his inside the distance number. It's plus 900 on on DraftKings, which is kind of, I mean, that's super steep. Just because I think Maddalena, like, even though he is a good striker and he lands a lot of his strikes, he is sometimes a bit square when he is kind of like throwing, like letting off some of these combinations, and he is there to be hit with like a check hook or a check right hook maybe, and Roberts is a southpaw, which I think this will be southpaw versus southpaw. Madalena switches sometimes, so curious, test here. I'm not gonna have any action, on the fight. I do think that Jack does get him out of there, and I do think it comes quicker, sooner rather than later, just because I Roberts is a little bit of a die on my shield kind of guy in terms of, when he is being underrated as much. Like I don't think he's gonna be running away. Like I think he's gonna look to throw back and exchange. And I don't think that's gonna go well for him. So I think Jack gets him out of there with a knockout, within 2 rounds.
Yeah, that's probably the most inevitable outcome here. But when a line is this juiced and there's an outcome that favored, in my opinion, you should never be looking to bet that outcome because it's obvious to everybody, it's obvious to the market. There's probably not much value there, and it's probably not a good long-term strategy to be just picking the most common outcome. So when I'm looking at this fight, I'm trying to find any way to bet it besides Jack KO, and the most likely, most valuable other bet than that is Jack by decision at plus 460. I mean, we're talking about a fighter that's 86% to win, and they're going to win via striking, and they're likely going to win as the fight goes on as well. I don't think it's completely out of the question that Robert stay alive here and make the decision. And for Jack to win it, I think Jack would be the overwhelming favorite to still win a decision if it gets there. So, maybe a small poke at that. There's it's probably going to be a KO, like Ozzy was saying. Roberts is just so hittable. But I mean, I think the line's probably getting a little crazy. I mean, just considering everyone is parlaying them and throwing them in parlays and betting them straight, and I mean, I
I
just
would
don't think
not
there's any
parlay
value.
this. I would
Yeah,
not
fuck that.
parlay. I would not parlay Jack.
And really, like Ozzy mentioned it too, Roberts KO 11-1. I mean, they're probably gonna just stand in the center and trade. It's not that out of the question um, for that to happen. So enough about that one. Another striking fight in the welterweight division: Muslim Salikhov, Andre Fiallo. This fight is lined to pick 'em -110 on both sides. Both guys coming off a pretty nasty knockout in their last fight. And pretty recently too. I was actually surprised. Like I think Salikov got knocked out in July, Fiallo got knocked out in June, and these guys are coming back later. Probably worse for Salikov, who's 38, significantly old, and also been competing in combat sports for like 25 years straight. So it's probably likely that he's going to be the one, maybe suffering from that more. But Fiallo is not young either, right? Oh no, he is. He doesn't look it. He's 28. Man, so I mean that I think that is probably a big edge here. We're talking about a 10-year age difference in a fight where speed and durability are probably going to play a pretty big factor. I think that Salikov is the better technical striker of the two, and Fiallo's defense is pretty shit, honestly. But I mean, he's probably going to be a matter of who can touch the chin of which guy first, and neither of these guys is likely to grapple. It's going to be very likely a striking fight, and Fiallo hits harder. He's younger, probably better for his durability. I don't know, man. This is tough because skill wise, I think you got to side with Salkov at the pick'em price, but the intangibles like durability, age, speed, Fialo, I think that favors him. So, man, I'm totally on the fence on this. Don't even know if I can give a pick. I'll pick. I'll pick Salikov. I'll go with the skill. But man, no conviction in this one. Um, I don't even see any props that I like either, too. So, what about you, Ozzy? Any way to play this fight?
Yeah, early on, I did lean towards Fialo when he was that short plus number. And I mean, I'll be honest, it being -110, -105, it does not dissuade me that much just because I mean, obviously, Fialo didn't show good cardio, has not showed good cardio either, but I do think he's going to be more on the front foot here. And I do think he carries the power a bit better, through the fight, even though he has slowed down in the past. I think it's gonna be a matter of how much does Fialo use the kicks here. Obviously he didn't get off at all against against Jake, just was not throwing enough, against him. I don't know what that was. I don't know if Jake was faster than he thought or if it was a timing thing. Not sure. But he looked terrible in that fight. Obviously it was a quick turnaround as well, in a foreign country, in Singapore. And Muslim, like he went to the takedown against Li Jingliang, kind of gassed out a little bit. You saw once he starts getting put on the back foot, in my opinion, his defense starts, kind of like wilting. Like it just does not kind of flow well, and he doesn't counter all that well. He did drop Grandpa Trinaldo with a counter. But even then, he kind of like slowed down, and Trinaldo started kind of even clawing, the round back that he got knocked out in. And I think the next round he actually won it, the third round. So I lean towards the Fialho side. I think that he's gonna be able to stay on the front foot, draw out some of those strikes that Salikhov likes to throw. Right, he likes to throw spin kicks sometimes, spinning what's it called, back fists as well. So I just think Fiallo is maybe going to be able to curtail him a bit, like kind of like move him towards his better offense, as the fight goes on, and he's a little bit more steadfast and kind of just continuing to utilize his tools. I think a little bit more than Salikhov. I feel like Salikhov, if he can't knock you out, he's like, oh shit, like this is not working, and he kind of like goes a little bit into a shell, and his volume starts to drop off. So I still lean towards the Fiallo side here. I think he's a higher volume guy, gonna carry the power, better cardio, just not as good defense, like you said. His defense is very bad. So it's an interesting fight for me. I'm definitely gonna be watching this one. And I might get there though on a ticket on Fiallo, just because Muslim he did look a little bit out of sorts. I feel in like a lot of his fights, like he does not look great, like at all.
He did win round 1 pretty easily versus Jing Liang, though,
He did.
he
He did.
he didn't look terrible in that fight, right?
He didn't look bad, no. But you knew that it was a live bet, Jing Liang spot. Everybody knew
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, yeah, bet round 2, round 3 plus 1,000 on the leech there and saw it happen in person too.
You did.
Um, so that's gonna move us along to the next fight, a heavyweight fight. The Dominican Waldo Cortez Acosta taking on Chase Sherman, um, who is he's pretty much a Dominican himself in spirit, but I mean,
Stop.
whatever. Waldo, whereas Waldo is minus 228. Chase Sherman plus 193. Oh, I can't wait for it inevitably Waldo to get knocked out, and then they're gonna make memes of him knocked out on the floor with the Waldo kid on. That's gonna be great. Um, but let's see. I think it's your turn to start this one. Let's
Sure,
hear it.
yeah.
Give us the Dominican insider on this one.
Listen. They love Waldo, bro. What heavyweight takes 2 fights on 3 week, like a fight on 3 weeks notice right after his UFC debut.
That is
And
impressive. I like that.
And I gotta say, the guy's got to be built different because the guy literally ate like 40 calf kicks from Vandera, and I guess his leg was totally fine. Because if it was me, dude, you wouldn't fucking see me for like 3 months, bro. Like I eat one calf kick, and I'm like, holy crap. Yeah, I mean, I'm actually surprised a little bit at. I mean, Waldo got steamed, 50-cent line move, which is significant, especially in the heavyweight division. In a fight where I think it's gonna be striking based. I thought the minus 170. I was like, all right, like I thought people were questioning it at that price, right? They were like, Sherman plus 145 or whatever it is. Like, how could he be plus 145 when? And look, I mean, they're eating crow because it's plus 195 now, basically. And I mean, the main thing is Waldo moves pretty good on the feet. I think Chase is going to be really surprised once he gets in there and he sees this guy's torso moving like that, and the bachata hips and the footwork. It's gonna get Chase is not. He's never seen a Dominican or a heavyweight move like Waldo's about to move in front of him. So I mean, he's gonna have to take a page out of Vandera's book, do the calf kicks. But even then, like Chase Sherman, his calf kicks suck. Like he does them in every fight, but he's literally never like you've never seen anyone like really hurt with the calf kicks. You know what I mean? Like he's landed a lot on a lot of guys, but you can never even remember a fight where you were like, oh man, like those are really effective in that fight. Like Parker Porter walked through them. Andre Arlovsky didn't care about them. Maybe Villanueva, but Villanueva is like a middleweight. Um, but yeah, I just think Chase Sherman, he's big and slow. Very, very bad defense. It's crazy. Chase Sherman, his strikes landed and absorbed is literally 6.51, both, which is insane. It's that's
That's
pretty crazy,
incredible.
dude. It's a pretty crazy that it's at the same, and especially given the
Over a big sample size too, like at
huge.
least
That's what I was gonna say. Is a lot of fights, and a lot of fights even that are quick fights. Some fights are like one rounders. Like it's a crazy stat, and it's gonna stay true here, but it's gonna go down because he's not gonna land on Waldo all that much. I don't think. I think Waldo's just gonna be too quick, moving around too much, and I think Chase is gonna get nuked on. He's gonna get hit on the face, but obviously he could knock Waldo out. I think maybe, but I think Waldo with the movement, with the jab, the lead hand, following up with his right hand. I think he's gonna be able to land here on Chase. I don't think Chase is gonna look to grapple at all. And I think we're going 2-0. The Dominican, what 4 weeks he's gonna beat these two bums that beat each other, and he's gonna be looking good to the UFC brass and ready for a big 2023. So my boy Waldo, he's down in Arizona. He's working. He's got his cardio. His cardio looked good in that Jared fight. Nobody talks shit about
did.
no.
Round 3, he won unanimously.
He pushed hard in that third round, and he wants to win. He threw a lot of body strikes. The guy's, I think, on the feet. I think he's going to be able to beat a good amount of heavyweights as long as he doesn't get put on the ground or in the clinch. So Chase Sherman, I don't think he's smart enough to beat Waldo. So I think Waldo's going to piece him up.
Yes, he made in Sherman's record actually. He might have 2.5 hours in the UFC cage. And that stat that Ozzy mentioned, that's just incredible. He lands the exact same amount, and it's not a low number of 2 or 3. He's literally getting hit 6.5 times per minute. That's like one punch or one strike every 9 seconds. Incredible, just incredible. But this is probably not a good fight for Chase just because Acosta throws a lot of punches and he'll be there for 15 minutes. But in the same sense, it's not the worst fight because Waldo is unlikely to grapple. He has a massive hold that can be exploited with those leg kicks, and he's also not a good defensive boxer himself. He doesn't punch that hard either. I just think the way to play this fight is the overs, and I'm doing one of my classic over 1.5s. Starts round 3, goes the distance. 3 bets on the fight, 2 units spread across the 3, 1 unit on the fight to go over 1.5, and then round 3 profit. And then if you goes the decision, then you have a nice maybe 2 unit profit on the fight. Maybe actually a little bit more than that. I just think that, man, like, I mean, it's pretty clear neither of these guys are like a huge knockout punchers. Some guys in the heavyweight division, they really wind up their punches and they hit you hard. You go down. These guys are not that. They're straight punchers. They fight behind a leg kick, a jab. I just don't see this fight finishing that quickly. I mean, they think that this fight goes under 1.5 rounds almost 40% of the time. And I just think that that's massively overrating these guys' KO power. So I'm playing the fight to go along. It'll probably be an Acosta decision. And hopefully we make it to that goes the distance to cash that plus 200. So
The
that's enough
biggest
about
thing is,
it.
guys, don't be fooled by what Chase Sherman did in the Jared Vanderaa fight. Like, I mean, it was so easy for him to hit Jared. Like, it was an and he was losing that fight, I thought. But I mean, there's no way he's gonna be able to land at that clip against Waldo. I would be shocked. Shocked. He landed almost 60% of his strikes against Jared, and it still took a massive barrage to KO him at the end. So, like you
It
said,
did.
Chase doesn't hit that hard, bro. He really doesn't.
He had 19 leg kicks versus versus Vandera though. That's not bad. I wonder how. Let's see. Versus he landed 33 versus Parker Porter. So he does throw leg kicks
Like I
historically.
said, they don't affect the guys though.
They
Really
not like
don't.
massively, but still. I mean, they look like a pretty massive edge, and there's
Sure,
no
yeah.
way he's going to be fixing that hole off of 3 or 4 weeks too. So
It's a great fight. Chase Sherman always. I mean, people are always intrigued in watching Chase Sherman fight. I have to say, I'm intrigued
yeah.
always, but
It's a sad thing, but it is an interesting
true.
fight.
Yeah.
So is this co-main event.
Huh.
These guys are kind of atrocious, but they're also when you match them up and put them in a cage together, it gets fascinating. So Ion Cutelaba, Kennedy and Nzechukwu, light heavyweight division, the line for this one, Kennedy minus 180, Cutelaba plus 155. So Cutelaba is just a massive idiot, man. I mean, this guy, I mean, he got submitted a process submitted via Johnny Walker. I mean, not just some crazy shit where he sticks his neck out and gets caught versus Span. I mean, step by step, he got dismantled and submitted by Johnny Walker. That's insane. So I
Really
mean, it
bad.
just seems like this guy is really dumb. His cardio sucks. He gasses out and fights pretty late. He's super hittable on the feet. He's not particularly that durable. We've seen him get rocked a few times. Um, and he's also not good as a defensive grappler. For a guy who's pretty much mostly an offensive grappler, his defensive grappling is really bad. And with Kennedy showing that new wrinkle with his own offensive grappling in his last fight, I don't think it's going to look as significant of an advantage compared to Carl Roberson, who's the worst grappler ever and who's a middleweight fighter. It'd be a dominant grappling from Ken. The fact that he can mix in that takedown, the small cage, just being a massive individual. And he's also, probably the better striker of the two with just those straight punches that length of his. But man, I mean, Roberson was actually giving Nzechukwu trouble on the feet. So man, I kind of think that Cutelaba he comes out so aggressive in round one. I think he does have potential to cover his price and look like the value side early. But if he doesn't get Kennedy out of there in round one, the first 7.5 minutes, he's probably going to slow down like he typically does, and Kennedy will probably take over. So I lean Kennedy to win the fight. I need my boy Safe Side you to pick up another victory. But I think the line is actually a little off here, and if there's a side at all in this fight, it is Cutelaba.
Man, what do you think about that over? It's -115 to the over.
I see that. I think it's going over.
The thing that is just perplexed, like Ion Cutelaba has, I don't think he has any finishes outside of round. I think he might have one. The fact is though, he either finishes you on round one or he like kind of loses most of the time. But the thing is, like Kennedy, like you said, did I look at? It's not -115. Sorry, I looked at the wrong one. -125. Same thing.
25.
But the thing is with Kennedy, like he does not have crazy KO power. But Kutalaba is easy to hit. Like you saw Ankalaev. he like the dude is just getting hit with every punch. And Kennedy's gonna have like a 9-inch, 8-inch reach advantage, but he does not have one hitter quitter power overall. And he is like an endurance athlete in there. So unless Kutalaba kind of like gasses himself out and maybe like he's just a quitter is the main issue, though. He's a quitter, once he gets put in bad grappling positions. Look, Misha Serkinov submitted. Glover Teixeira submitted. Uh, Johnny Walker submitted. Right, he just gets submitted all the time whenever he gets in any bad positions. And the leverage that Kennedy has with that big frame, and apparently he's been learning how to grapple, is I think could be bad for Kudalabe. I could see like something where like Kutalaba has like a takedown, like a single leg, and Kennedy just having long ass legs and big ass arms, like kind of just like pushing his head, whatever. I don't know, like a situation where Kutalaba like falls down, or Kennedy gets on top of him and Kutalaba just folds, because like he just has not shown that fire at all after that first round against Dustin Jacoby. He didn't even try to win that fight, one bit. So I think it's a bad fight for Ion Kutalaba overall. I would agree that kind of like betting Kennedy here is a little bit like, laying that juice, it feels a little bit uncomfortable. But I really don't think Kutalaba is going to win this fight outside of round one. So I still lean towards Kennedy. And I kind of want to bet him just because he's the last hope for the Nigerian ETF. Like, if they're going to Nigeria, like Dana White says, they got to have Kennedy, win here, right? Narrative Nation. But I just can't. I don't know if I could trust the guy because he's weird. Like you saw how he fell down against Daong Jung. Like it's just a strange, turn of events there. But Kutalaba is just the most unreliable guy at 205. Bar none, full stop. Like you never know if the guy's gonna come out and like grapple. Like he doesn't even hold people down. Like he holds down Devin Clark, but he can't hold down like some of these other guys. Like he's just really strange. Like a really weird guy. So I think Kennedy's gonna touch him up early, be defend some of the grappling. I think Kutalaba's gonna eventually quit. So I lean Kennedy finish Kutalaba at some point. I don't know how, when. Kutalaba's gonna find a way out of the fight.
And Kennedy's boy, Ryan Spann, already did get the victory. Kennedy needs to close that chapter for Fortis MMA.
Like
And
you
that's
said,
it.
getting submitted clearly, like out grappled by Johnny Walker is insane.
Yeah. You should probably just retire after that.
That
But
was crazy, dude.
main event time, heavyweight fight, Derek Lewis versus Sergey Spivak. Insane as a main event. Just capping off the year of dog shit main events for the UFC. I mean, especially the past few weeks. I mean, just women's MMA main events, and man, it's been rough. Um, but now we got Spivak minus 211, Derek Lewis plus 181. So I've got some thoughts here. Now, historically, I haven't liked Derek Lewis much, and I have liked Sergey Spivak, but I really don't think this is a bad matchup for Derek Lewis in the sense that Lewis has been, quitting lately and getting hit by some punchers and kind of just shelling up and not really fighting back much. But the fact that he's facing a guy in Spivak who's going to be predominantly a grappler, I think that's already a better thing for Lewis. I mean, if he doesn't have a guy who's going to come out of the gates throwing punches like Ty and Pavlovich did, that's a win for him. So he's got a guy who's going to try to take him down in the small cage. And Spivak is completely taking him down, and he has pretty good cardio as well. So even if he takes him down 5 6 times, I think he'll be able to keep going. But Lewis just he needs one shot here, and I don't think Spivak is super tough. I mean, we saw him kind of shell up and quit kind of easily versus Aspinall. Walt Harris was able to catch him early back in the day. So, I mean, for a guy like Spivak who has been caught and knocked out before, I think that Lewis can, bum rush him and land some shit here. I mean, it's just Lewis needs to pull the fucking trigger. He needs to realize that waiting around and doing nothing and letting the fight come to him is not the best course of action. He needs to get on Spivak early, push him backwards, throw his crazy combinations and try to make something happen. Because if he just sits back and waits with his, flat-footed, heavy-footed style, he's gonna get taken down and he's gonna get probably smashed on the mat. But I mean, Augusto Sakai was standing up from a lot of takedowns versus Spivak. And Lewis, if he has some fight in him, if he doesn't completely quit here, he should be stand up as well. And man, I don't know. I don't think you can even be considering betting Sergey Spivak at these prices. I think it has to be Derek Lewis or pass. Derek Lewis, historically a fighter that you want to be betting as an underdog if you're betting him at all. And you're getting that underdog price here, and it seems like it's going to keep going up. So you might as well wait, maybe last minute, throw some on Derek Lewis, knockout for some hilarity and just hope for the best. I'm interested to see. You think Spivak makes it look easy here, Ozzy, or you think Lewis has a legit chance?
Oh man, like the point that you made there, the fact that Spivak or not Spivak, excuse me, Sakai, even Greg Hardy, like the guy had to take both these guys down multiple times. Man, Derek Lewis is not a guy that I think is one like easy to take down. Like is gonna be non-energy intensive, right? And then secondly, like is Spivak like is he gonna go for a submission? Like I don't know. Like he doesn't. I've never really seen him go for many submissions overall. Like is he gonna like the thing is he's gonna have to ride Derek Lewis. I think Derek Lewis is always kind of. I think he performs a little bit better. I guess in these Apex events he doesn't have all the pressure maybe with all these people. And he had like Derek Lewis has to know that like Sergey Spivak, like you said, the guy is a quitter. He's never really been hit. He went life and death on the feet with Olenek, bro. Like he was with him. So it's not like he's like the smartest guy either. Um, so I mean, I think Derek Lewis is very live to get a win here. But I also think that, Spivak, if he does, maybe he could get like push the fight out of Derek Lewis, like, wear him down a little bit. But there's, like you said, there's no way you could bet on Sergey Spivak because it's just like he doesn't even have great lower body takedowns. Like he needs to be in close, and when Derek Lewis is in close, he's looking to throw those uppercuts. He's looking to really hurt you, and I don't know if Sergey Spivak is really ready or is aware of the ferocity that Derek Lewis coming off. How many fights in a row this guy's lost? Two, only two. So 2 fights in a row, losing in Texas. Like the ferocity he's gonna come at him with. I'm not sure Sergey Spivak is ready for that. Derek Lewis does not have to respect your striking. I think you're potentially in a lot of trouble. So definitely like gonna have a small ticket on Derek Lewis. Like it's very profitable in these situations. Very profitable.
Well, that's gonna do it. I think we definitely, yeah, we got in. Oh no, I think we might have hit the deadline. I was talking about that hour deadline. So people might have tuned out by now, but I wouldn't blame them if they did because this card is just that bad, you know. So we have to give a best bet parlay of the card, even though I feel very unconvinced about everything. But I'll go ahead and give one. I'll but here we have the Sherman Waldo over 1.5. -142 bet online, -140 on FanDuel, and you can even get it some places, you know, maybe better prices. But what about you?
Man, tough pickings. Between money lines, I think it would be between Vince Morales, Johnson, and Fiallo. I think those are the only kind of sides that I'm really kind of leaning towards. And you know me, I'm always doing I take the side that I think most value and, yada, yada, et cetera, et cetera. So I'll go with Vince Morales at the plus 145.
All right, so bet online. We combine Vince Morales plus 145 with minus 142. We have plus 318. Been a while since we won a best bet parlay, but it would be very fitting for us on a week with no conviction to finally win one for a change. So that's it. We'll be off next week. No UFC next week. There's PFL though. Thanksgiving week. Hopefully, everyone has a nice Thanksgiving, and we'll be back before or the week after Thanksgiving.
I will say the
So
December slate for the UFC, I like all the cards. The Orlando card's good. The Glover fight card is good, and that last Apex event, I've been shitting on a lot of these Apex events, but the last Apex event, good fights on that card. Sneaky, sneaky, sneaky good card.
yeah, I agree. Let's close out that last month strong. And thank you all for listening. Hope you all have a good one. We'll see you all before the next UFC event. Peace out, everyone.